Hi, how are you doing? I'm all by myself at home doing this video just for you. Hopefully you're awake, hopefully you're not driving the sub crazy, and hopefully you are currently in your seat listening, which I doubt. But if you are, hi. Okay, here's what we're going to do today. We're going to learn about X and Y intercept, and X and Y intercept are not going to be a very hard thing to find, but there's a couple things we have to know before we get started. Okay, the first thing is, what are they? Well, we know what y-intercept is. Y-intercept is where we hit the y-axis when we have a line. So there's our blue line, and it hits the y-axis right there. But this line also hits the x-axis, and we call any line that hits the x-axis the x-intercept. So we actually have two intercepts. We don't ever really talk about this guy, but he's just as important as that guy. Y-intercept we use more, x-intercept not used as much, but it is important to know because you will need to know it for next year. Okay, just before we move on, you need to know a couple things. One, not all lines are going to cross the x or y axis. Now I know in all the graphs that we drew, we showed that they cross the y-axis. Well, I could draw a line like that. It crosses the y-axis right there. So this would be my y-intercept. But you'll notice that it never crosses the x-axis, which is all the way down here. So this line is a special line. It would have a y-intercept, but no x-intercept. We're not going to have to worry about that for today. We're going to pick lines that cross both, just like that's shown on this picture here. So there are special cases, but we're not going to worry about them right now. We're just going to learn how do I find x and y-intercept. Okay, here's what you do. They give you this horrible looking formula or equation, and you're trying to figure this out. And normally you would say, okay, well, I gotta go y equals mx plus b, and this sucks. I wish I was at home in bed, but he keeps yelling at me, so I'm just gonna do the questions. Okay, anyways, you don't have to do this, right? Don't. There's a faster way. Here's what you do. Well, if you take a look at both pictures, and I look at the y-intercept crosses at the y-axis. That means it's not to the left and it's not to the right. So that means if we're taking a look at stuff, the y-intercept will always have an x value of 0. And its y value will be wherever it hits the y-axis. So it could be above or below ground. So I'm just going to leave it as y. If I take a look at the x-intercept, and I'll just scroll up here really quick, it's this guy right here. You'll notice that it's not above the ground or below the ground, so its y value is right at ground level. So the y value is 0. And that means its x value could be either to the left or right. So here it's to the left, but it could also be over here. So its x value could be some value, and I'll leave it as x. So the way to remember this is, if you want to find y-intercept, make the opposite or x equal to 0. If you want to find the x-intercept, make the opposite or y equal to 0. Okay, so pretty easy. Now, I know there's probably one smart kid at the back already saying, well, we already know how to find b. Why do we have to do this another different way? Well, if you want to go and rearrange this whole thing for y equals mx plus b, you can find your y-intercept that way. But why bother? There's a faster way, and I'm going to show you how. So let's use this formula, or this equation, and try to figure out, maybe first to find the y-intercept. Okay, so let's find y-intercept. So you go, okay, let's find y-intercept. That means I have to make x equal to 0. So all you do, I'll just change color here, go like red, is we're going to go 2, and let's make x 0. So instead of putting x, I'm going to put 0. And then I write everything exactly the same. Okay, simplify it. 2 times 0 is 0. So on the left side I'm left with 6, and on the right side I'm left with 4y minus 2. Okay, get the y by itself, move the 2 over, and I have 8 equals 4y. Okay. Okay. Now what do I have to do? Well, I got to divide by 4. So I'm going to have 8 divided by 4, and y will equal 2. And the reason I solve for y is it's the only other letter left. So what else do I have to look for here? Okay, the next thing I'm going to try to figure out is I can't just leave it like that. Like that's an okay answer, but that's like a not a good answer. So let's write it out as x, y coordinates. Because remember, I want to know, like on a picture, where do I draw this? Like where exactly do I draw this? So I'm going to write it as this. We know the y is 2, so I put 2. And we know the x is always 0 because, or let's see, I made it 0. So I made the x 0. So I put 0 there. Done. So this is my y-intercept. Because remember, our y-intercept has an x of 0 and some value. So you now found the y-intercept. Okay, the x-intercept is exactly the same thing. Except this time, we are going to make the y 0. So here's my equation. I'm going to write it out on the left side here. And I'm going to go, okay, so I go 2x plus 6 equals 4y minus 2. And this time I want to find the x-intercept. So make y 0. Okay, so I go 2x plus 6 equals 4. And instead of writing y, I put 0. Okay, clean it up. 4 times 0 is 0. And I'd be left with this negative 2. And then I can bring the 6 over. And will be minus 6 on the other side. So 2x will be negative 8. Okay, solve for x, because it's the only letter left. And surprise, x equals negative 4. There you go. Now remember, we want to always list it in x, y format. We know the x is negative 4, because I just found out. And the y we made 0, so you make it 0. And there you go. There's your x-intercept. So if I went back to this fancy graph up here, the y-intercept was 0, 2. So in our picture here, let me just grab an eraser. Erase. I think this will, yeah, there we go. So on our picture here, our x-intercept was negative 4, 0. So you go 1, 2, oh sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it'd be right there. Yeah. And then our y-intercept was 0, 2. So you go, okay, and you go 0, 2. And so that means you're going to stay not left or right, up 2. And there you go. That's what your line would be. And if I connected it with a ruler, which I can't do on here, so I'm going to hand draw it, your line would look like that. And this would be its x-intercept. And this would be the y-intercept. You have now figured out how to find x and y-intercept without having to write y equals mx plus b. And you could actually draw a graph doing it this way as well. So now you learned a new way to also draw a graph, even though we haven't practiced it. So hopefully this makes a little bit more sense. And if you have any more questions, you know how to get a hold of me. But I have one more thing to tell you, and that's this. Please, I don't have enough friends. I'm very sad. Follow me, make me extra happy. Okay, have a good day. Bye. Talk to you soon.